Welcome to Kaiser Watch with John Kaiser. I'm your host, Jim Goddard. Welcome back to the show.
Jim, good to be back on the show.
What's new with Patriot battery metals?
Well, an important shift happened in the center of gravity for Patriot battery metals this week. On Sunday, before the Australian Stock Exchange opened trading, the company published an update indicating that on the CV5 pegmatite on the Corvette project, they had done 4 step-out holes to the northeast of hole 93, which was the excellent hole for which assays were recently reported. 400-meter step-outs, broad intervals, looks very similar to that 350-meter segment that is even more enriched than the other 1,600 or so meters of the trend into which about 100 holes have so far been drilled. They reported also that they found angular boulders on the other side of this northeast trending lake, which suggests that yes, indeed, the CV5 pegmatite does trend towards the CV4 outcrop on the north shore, which does not explain the angular boulders. So right now the drill is marching towards that CV4 outcrop and tracking what appears to be a continuation of a pegmatite body that's already 2,400 meters long. And the speculation that, yes, this thing may be double the size that's already indicated, for which one can sort of back the napkin estimate a 50 million ton body, might end up being a 100 million ton body. And the stock reacted strongly to this news on the ASX. And then on Monday, our morning, when trading opened on the TSX Venture Exchange, it reflected the action in the Australian market. It had a strong day. And it was also a very big day for the James Bay area play juniors. Brunswick broke through $1. Even Dios managed to claw its way above 10 cents on strong volume. It was sort of an awakening that what's happening in the James Bay area is becoming a great Canadian area play. But then later in the week, things sort of cooled off as the market realized, okay, the Canadian trading is not really calling the shots anymore. And we're starting to see now a pattern where the Patriot battery stock will end up being weak in the morning, but then have a strong rally towards the end. And this has to do with the time zone difference. For example, in Australian trading, in Sydney opens at 10 a.m. in their morning, which is 3 o'clock Vancouver time. So basically 2 hours after trading has closed, Pacific time at 1 o'clock. And so what we're seeing is that the Australians get up in the morning, and they've got several hours before the Canadian trading closes, and then another couple hours to think about it. And so if we see the Canadians who really don't understand the Lithium Mania 2.0 concept sell off the stock during the day while the Australians are asleep, they'll be in there, assuming that the sentiment is still positive for the whole story, they'll be in there buying it in the last hour of the market, making it do well. And we saw this on Wednesday. The PMET had traded as low as 15 and a quarter. And then it rallied back over $16 on the close, and then somebody dribbled out some stock, and it closed at $15.93. And at these levels, the company has about a $2 billion valuation. And the reason we are seeing this is that there's a difference in understanding about what these pegmatite discoveries in the James Bay region mean. And it reminds me a lot of in the 90s, when Diamet launched the Ekati discovery, and between 1992 to 93, when the Canadians were still trying to figure out what these diamonds were all about, we had the Europeans and the South Africans who understood the news flow coming out. They would be still, the Canadian markets would open around 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock their afternoon, and and they would be trading it in the morning. They would see whatever the news was. They would understand what it was. And so you'd see a surge of buying, pushing up Diamet in the morning. And then as evening came along, everybody went home for dinner, and the Europeans and South Africans disappeared from the market. And then it was just the Canadians playing in the market, sort of wondering what comes next. It's different time zones. We have a similar discrepancy in understanding. Right now that the Canadians tend to still view the Lithium Mania 2.0 as just another variation of the battery metals flash in the pan. And you look at all these lifestyle juniors out there, you check their website and the corporate presentations, pictures of charging stations and all kinds of other stuff irrelevant to geology and pegmatites in the ground. So we're still going through this transition of overcoming the skepticism that all of this is real. And the next thing that we need to see for Patriot battery metals is we need to see confirmation that some of these big players are seriously interested. For example, last week there was this rumor that Mineral Resources was interested in building a stake. That's a $16 billion company that produces iron and lithium. And somebody apparently asked the CEO about whether this was true, and we got a no comment answer, which suggests that maybe it was true. And then there's Rio Tinto in the background wondering, what should it do? I mean, it's out there on record saying we need 60 JADARs by 2035 to meet the lithium demand requirements. And JADAR itself is a phenomenal deposit of about 150 million tons of 1.8% lithium oxide. It's a different mineral jadarite than the spodumene that's in the Canadian pegmatites, and so there's going to be lower recovery. But that project ended up stranded because the Serbian government canceled the license because they're worried that developing this deposit would cause a contamination and otherwise ruin the valley in which it is located. But when you think of it, 60 JADARs, even if CV5 ends up being a 50 million ton deposit that manages to average 2%, that could churn out $3 billion a year revenue. But it would still, if you believe the IEA's projections of a 600% supply increase required by 2030, that would still end up being like only 3% of total supply at the time. And when you consider that Patriot Battery has sort of a 30-40 kilometer trend in which there are multiple occurrences of these fairly large-sized, good-grade pegmatites, we're talking like a world-class trend, something like owning 40-50 kilometers of the Destor Porcupine break all for yourself, and you find where all these 80 million ounces that are in there are located. So what would a Rio Tinto be willing to pay at this point? And right now the market's sort of wondering, will this happen? Will the Quebec government allow roads to be pushed up into this area? Will the Cree nations accept that their backyard could become a very, very busy mining area? And so there might end up being a bid that comes in, and if that happens, then all hell breaks loose. Then we know we have a true Great Canadian Area play on our hands. But the other thing that could still happen is, will somebody, like a group of institutions, step up and say, offer them $100 million plus at this $2 billion valuation, and not just include the Bay Street style institutions, but include American institutions such as BlackRock? If that event were to happen, then we would also see probably the center of gravity shift back to North America. But for now, it's the Australians who understand the implications of these discoveries who are driving the action in Patriot Battery. And we're going to have to live with this for a while with, sort of subdued action in the morning, except when there has been a fresh news release, and then a rally later in the day. It's going to be interesting to see if the new pattern for Patriot battery metals will be to put out news releases on our Canadian Sunday afternoon ahead of trading opening on the Australian morning.
Why did X-Terra do a 7-to-1 rollback?
That has a lot of people just shaking their head. After the 7-for-1 rollback, they have about 16.4 million shares outstanding. So they had about 113 million, maybe 130 million fully diluted. The company had raised about 600,000 flow through in the fall, and it was a sleeper until the market started to realize that X-Terra's Liberty project is right on trend and quite close to the JMAR pegmatite that has helped Winsome go from the 35.50 cents in June of last year to over $2 today. And right last week they were halted to announce a financing of about 60 million Australia, split between sort of $2 private placement and sort of a type of rights offering, plus I think around $3 for flow through. So obviously there's Canadian residents who are also interested in this. And that's primarily based on the Adina project and the Jamar pegmatite. So why would this little company, which had started around 5 cents or so 3 or 4 weeks ago, had managed to get to 13, 14 cents, why would it do this rollback that completely destroys liquidity? And the stock, in typical post-rollback fashion, has started to sink. And the cynical assumption in the market is that so the Quebec Institute or the Quebec Brokerage Center, they're going to knock this thing down to 50 cents or so and do a big financing there that would give them several $1 million in order to start drilling for or looking for the extension, and then it'll jump back up and away they go, and that kind of doesn't sit well with retail investors. An alternative scenario could be, and this to me makes a lot more sense, is that they do a farm-out deal with Winsome so that Winsome has some more strike extension on this project. Then they don't need to finance anymore. And then we're not dealing with this sloppiness in the stock where there were way too many former flow-through shareholders in the stock that were always busy selling. And then you have the algo traders in there washing it around and around, churning it. Then with the liquidity gone, and let's say they have a 50% or 40% net interest in their project with Winsome, with all its staff and that already in a position to continue drilling if they march the pegmatite right to X-Terra's border. Well, then that stock, if they start finding the pegmatite also on their property, then that stock can go up, and based on the sort of the mathematical implications of what they are trying to discover, without having the ongoing worry about dilution from financing through the Canadian brokerage system.
Why is Harfang Exploration catching market attention?
Harfang was one of my favorites several years ago, based on the Serpent project in the James Bay area. This is sort of northwest of where all the pegmatite action is right now, with the Corvette project, the Plex project of Brunswick, and their current focus is Lake Martinet, which is really a gold play. Last year they did a merger with LaSalle. Francois Goulet stepped down. Ian Campbell is now in charge of the company. They have about $8 million working capital, but they suffered the post rollback fallout where the stock goes down. They had done a 55-cent financing, and that brought Crescat into the company. At the time, it was just a gold play that made a lot of sense. The Serpent was still something they were quite interested in, but the lithium wasn't really a concept early last year when this merger was done in conjunction with this financing. But it turns out that Ian Campbell was the exploration VP for Avalon when it discovered the Separation Big Water project. And that's a big petalite-based pegmatite. And so he's completely familiar with everything. He doesn't have to go to Lithium 101 school to figure out what's going on. So they started to investigate the region, get all the same lake bottom sediment geochemistry together, and also they have the knowledge of all the geology in the area because they've been working up in this area for quite some time. And so on January 19th, they announced that they had staked additional land at the La Presse project and a new one called Newark, which surrounds an intrusion, a granitoid intrusion. They've staked the offboard area where you might expect the LCT-type pegmatites to have evolved and placed themselves. And on February 8th, they announced 6 more projects that they had staked in different parts of the James Bay region. So now they are both a gold company with a drilling program either underway or about to start soon on Lake Martinique. And of course, all these projects are, these lithium projects are all grassroots in the sense that, some of them have had documented pegmatite on them, but none of them has actually been assayed to see if they have any lithium content to them. So they'll have to put the boots on the ground this summer to find out which ones are real. But you've got this interesting phenomenon where Andre Gaumont is a key backer of Harfang. He was behind Virginia Gold, from which Virginia Mines was spawned. And it's been this irony that these projects like Corvette and Plex, which Brunswick now has, these were all properties that Andre Gaumont's team assembled in the 90s and not in the 90s, in the 2010s after the buyout of Virginia Gold by Goldcorp, and they were all following these orogenic transmafic metavolcanics that have potential for orogenic gold, but whose sort of structural trend also allows for the emergence of these pegmatites that can be the LCT types, such as what we now find on Patriot Battery Metals Corvette. And he's sort of watching all this in great mystification. And now we have his Harfang, where he's a big backer. Now we have them back in the James Bay area play. They're picking properties based on smart geology. They actually understand how the geochemistry works. They're linking it to geology that they may even have maps of the area that others do not have, and they're staking land that the ambulance chasing let's go online and stake some squares on the map that are somehow near the Corvette play. They have an advantage that these other ones don't. And so today, Crescat tweeted that, we like this new development. And I talked to Ian Campbell in Vancouver at the VRIC conference. Their booth happened to be across from Brunswick's, and he kind of hinted that they weren't done staking lithium property yet. And Ian says that, well, we haven't really talked to Crescat yet about the lithium potential, but the market obviously liked the idea that Crescat, which is a pretty smart group investing in companies, a number of them which overlap with juniors that I picked, the market liked it that, Crescat's perhaps coming around to seeing lithium in addition to all the base metal and precious metals projects that they've invested in. So Harfang, it's a bottom fish, part of my bottom fish collection now. But if we start seeing some results from their gold project, this would definitely be one that I would want to add to my 2023 favorites collection.
John, thank you so much for the update.
You're welcome, Jim.
We've been talking with John Kaiser. I'm Jim Goddard. Comments made on Kaiser Watch are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any manner whatsoever as a recommendation to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Archived online at kaiserresearch.com.